we go. Reaper's Gale is up. So I'm going to make this first update pretty quick here. I was so excited when I just turned through the front matter and the top of the Dramatis Personae, Taeho and Bug were 1 and 2. So I'm super excited to be reunited with those characters. Somebody had told me that this is a kind of a good combination of Midnight Tides and the Bone Hunters. Loved both of those books. Midnight Tides remains my favorite of the series so far, but here we go. So this is a Monday update. I'm off this week. I don't know if I can finish this in a week because it's huge. I've heard it's a lot slower. It's a bit denser than some of the other books in the series, but I'll at least get a good dent into it by Sunday and hopefully finish it up sometime next week. But I am off this week. So even though it's still technically December as I'm filming this, this will be my first book of 2026. I tend to try to read something first that's kind of big and epic to start the year, and something that I think will be something that I will love. And, well, I'm loving Malazan. Even though Reaper's Gale is not a book that is as universally praised as some of the others, I can't wait to get started. So I'm going to turn off the camera, and I'll update you tomorrow and let you know how it's going. Well, it's Tuesday, and I read all of book 1 last night. Yesterday afternoon and last night. I like to get a good start on these Malazan books to just feel like I've made some progress because they're so big. So knocking out about 150, 160 pages on the first day just makes me feel like I'm getting somewhere. Let's see. First thing, it feels really disjunct. And just like every Malazan book, it started off confusing, didn't know what was going on. And then we start to see some characters I know. But one thing I love right away is just the setting, being back to the continent with the Letheri. I don't remember the name of the continent at the moment. But being back to the setting, basically, of Midnight Tides. I'm very excited for that because that's my favorite book through 6 books. So I'm very excited to be back there. And starting to see some of those characters. I mentioned in the first update, seeing just Taeho and Bug right away as the first 2 listed on the Dramatis Personae, so I was very excited for that. We saw them just a little bit. I hope to get more of them. The thing I should have mentioned about the Dramatis Personae is it's huge in this book. I mean, it's like 5 pages or something like that. There's a lot. There's a lot of Malazans and a lot of, looks like, Marines. So I guess we're going to get a bunch of military fantasy in this. So a little trepidatious about that, to be honest. But it feels a bit disjunct because we're jumping around a lot. And it was a lot of just kind of little scenes here and there where you saw someone just briefly, like we saw Shirk once, and then we just saw her again a little bit later, so we didn't get much of her. Probably the thing that was easiest to gravitate onto as far as the old characters were concerned was this group with Silchus Ruin and Saren and Fear, Sengar in there. So that group was easy to kind of lock in and see their story. It's interesting, the Silchus Ruin and Fear dynamic. They're both looking for this Finis thing. I don't really remember what that is. I might have to look at the wiki on that. But they are kind of not for the same goals, but they're together because it makes sense. So it's gonna be interesting to see where that goes. The new character I like the most is this Red Mask character who kind of united the tribes a little bit. So I like where that's going. I mean, a character, obviously a very strong character, who has, as his 2 familiars, he has 2 Kachane Shamal. I mean, that's just outrageous right there. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. So, I said with this book, because of the mixed reception, I was going to go in with low expectations. I don't feel like I'm disliking the book. I also don't feel like, oh, I'm loving this book or anything like that. But it's just kind of a typical beginning to a Malazan book. There's new characters to introduce, and I'm trying to get to know them and to see what's going on, especially all the new ones around Rulad, kind of on that side of the story. So just kind of getting my footing there. We'll see where book 2 takes us. I don't know if I'll read 150 pages today. I'd love to, but we'll see. I have some more other things today, so I don't know if I can get that done. But anyway, good starts. I'm, about a quarter of the way to the book, and we'll just see how it goes from here. So it's Thursday, late afternoon. I just finished book 2. I had suspected that I might not do an update yesterday, but I only read one chapter. Yesterday was New Year's Eve, so I only read one chapter yesterday. So book 1 took 1 day, book 2 took basically 3 days, although I might read another chapter or 2 tonight. Book 2 is really slow. I feel that the narrative is really just meandering and just bouncing from character to character. It really wasn't until the last kind of chapter and a half of book 2 that kind of some interesting things started happening. And one of the things I'm liking some of the, when it bounces around character to character, I'm finding that, like most fantasy readers, I have characters that I like, and for the most part with Malazan, it's just the characters that I know best. So when it's going to, the characters from previous books, I'm enjoying their stories a lot more than the new characters. With the exception of maybe Red Mask, I don't think I've connected with a single new character in this book yet, which is a little disconcerting because we're, I guess page count, we're not quite halfway through, but the last 2 books seem to be the longest. But, I'm almost 400 pages in, and none of the new characters have really done much for me that I feel their stories are compelling. There have been some really cool things. I like the Talk the Younger, kind of the reemergence of that character a lot. I'm finding what's going on with him is very, very interesting. And the last conversation he had with that old man that was kind of a foil for Red Mask, I don't know who that is at this point, but really, really fun back and forth with those 2 characters. And, we really haven't seen Talk the Younger since Memories of Ice, and it's kind of cool to have that character back. But as far as the overall narrative, it's probably been 4 books since I felt anything has been this just slow. And I won't go so far as to call it tedious, but it's close to that. It's not nearly as compelling as anything in really the last 3 books that I've read so far. So there's that. So I'm seeing why a lot of people say the first half of this book is like that, because it's just really until the last 2 chapters of book 2, it was just like, okay, let's go see what this character's doing. Let's go see what this character's doing. And it didn't really move the plot along very far. So I don't know. We'll see what's going on. I'm really intrigued with the Troll, Onrak, and Quick Ben trio. What's happening with that? That's one little storyline that we only saw them twice, maybe 3 times in the scope of the book 2, which was about 200 pages. But where it ended, where Onrak was kind of mortal again, I don't know if that's temporary or permanent. That's interesting. But some other things I liked, I love all the Karsa stuff, especially in the penultimate chapter of this book where he fights a Segula and just basically tears her apart. And then Ublela goes to worship him, and then he sends him out. Karsa sends him out to assemble his army. So that's really interesting. And then Karsa just wants another shot at Ikariam. So interesting what's going on with that. One thing, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but it's interesting to me because I've seen, up until this book, I've always seen Rulad as the villain, or a villain, not the villain, but a villain. And I'm starting to feel a bit more empathy or compassion for him, seeing that he's being manipulated by the crippled god and everybody else around him. There's all this just political stuff going on. And while honestly I don't find it crazy compelling, it does make me feel a little bit sorry for this character. A lot of what he did, he brought it on himself because of just his envy of his older brothers and all of that in Midnight Tides. But that's one thing this book has done, is it's kind of changed my perspective of Rulad. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with him and Ikariam and Karsa, how that's going to play. I've been waiting for this for 2 books now, or a book and a half. It's can we please get to this? So I'm curious to see where that's going. But anyway, it's Thursday. I still see my projection as hopefully finishing next Tuesday. I'm off work till Sunday, back to work Monday, Tuesday, but hopefully I'll only have a couple hundred pages or less left at that point. I don't see me finishing it before Monday. yesterday only reading one chapter kind of set me behind schedule for me to be able to do that. But anyway, it's kind of hit and miss right now. I won't say that I'm not enjoying it, but I'm not enjoying it as much as probably any of the previous books up to this point. So there it is. Hey, just a quick update. I don't want to make it too long because I might be super negative. It is Thursday afternoon Friday afternoon. And I read probably about 100 more pages from my last update, I think, is about right. Sorry for the hand in the way. I'm setting the thing down. This story feels like it's going absolutely nowhere. It just feels very disjunct. It feels meandering. It feels like a rudderless ship. Like there's no direction and there's like literally nothing going on. The disjunctness is there's just so many characters and it's bouncing back and forth, and like we'll get to a POV or a bunch of characters like, oh, this is cool, and then you don't see them for like 80 pages. And then you're stuck with just less compelling stuff in between. So I'm around page 480, and my version is 910 pages. So I'm past the halfway point. About a little past around halfway, I think, of book 3 of the 4 books. But yeah, I'm understanding why so many people don't like this book in the scheme of things, because of the almost 500 pages that I've read, this is easily my least favorite stretch that I've read in the series. And I'm still hopeful for a good ending because I've heard so many people talk about a good ending. I just wish it would get there, because right now it just feels like nothing interesting's going on. I mean, you get tiny little scenes that are somewhat interesting, like the scene with Roulade and his parents at the end. They're like, oh, this is the beginning of the end. The one POV character said that. It's like, okay, well, maybe we're going somewhere with that. I love the little mini confrontation with Karsa and Akariam. I mean, that was cool. Find out Akariam has maybe a little bit of Toblakai blood in him, so they might be kindred souls here. But there's just really, I just feel like we're just bouncing around with no purpose right now. So I don't want to belabor the point, but I hope things pick up. I'm still probably on pace to finish it sometimes next week. I'll read a little bit tonight. I don't think I'll do a long session. I just did like 2 hours, which was like 2 chapters this afternoon, and kind of worn out. So I might just read one more chapter today, but I'll probably give you an update sometime tomorrow. Hey, just a real quick update because I want to keep reading today. I'm about 100 pages further than I was yesterday. I think I was around page 500. I just finished book 4, and the last 100 pages, it's definitely gotten a lot better. I still feel this book is probably destined to be my least favorite of the series, or at least through the first 7. But it has gotten better. There's a lot of more interesting things happening. First of all, like some actual action started happening with the Malazans. Somebody had asked me on the Discord, hey, now that the Bone Hunters are there, is it picked up? I said, no, all they're doing is bantering at each other, which is cool, but, banter for 150 pages is still like nothing's going on. Well, some things started happening and it got really interesting. And then there's just at the very end of book 3, there's some really interesting stuff from the big picture perspective, which is what I've liked seeing pretty much since book 5. So Bug kind of got turned into the Elder God again, and then kind of got enslaved into his own altar, it seemed like, by Errant. And just seeing the Errant stuff, I enjoyed the Errant stuff at the end of Midnight Tides quite a bit. So I liked seeing it just not being a kind of, I guess the political maneuvering around the Letheri and Roulade just really didn't do it for me in this book. It just seemed so passive, but it's a bit more active now, so that was really interesting. I'm really intrigued about the whole Onrak thing, with him being like mortal now, or at least being a creature of flesh. So I'm curious to see where that goes. But I'm going to cut it there. I just wanted to my last update, I think I was pretty negative, so I wanted to be a little bit more positive here, because I am more positive on the book at this point. But like I said, I still think this is going to end up as my least favorite in the series, just because so little of interest was happening for so long. But I'm expecting at this point that I'm probably going to like the rest of the book. So, on to book 4. Oh, hello. It is Monday morning. I'm got a little bit of time before I head into work. I can dress casual today. We don't have students today. The last third of this book has been fantastic, and I read a lot yesterday, and I didn't want to stop and shoot one of these because I just wanted to keep reading. And I'm just really impressed with how it's come together. I still stand by everything I've said so far, that the first 2/3 of this book is too slow, it's too disjunct, it's too meandering. It's easily my least favorite stuff I've read in Malazan so far. But it got really good really quickly. I'm really just impressed with the way that, to tell you where I am, I think I'm up to the last chapter. I have 100 pages left, and I think the last 100 pages, except for a short epilogue, is the last chapter. But I just finished the chapter where all the stuff went on with Hedge killing the dragon and all of that up on that. I don't remember the names of the Warrens and all that, so you know where that is. But leading up to all of this, I'm just really impressed with, first of all, how well plotted the series as a whole is, because we get Talk the Younger and Tool in some very meaningful things. I mean, that's like books 1 and 3, and here we are in book 7, and like all of that's paying off. I love just, I guess the word for Malazan is convergence. I love how a lot of the characters are, converging upon one another. I don't know if it's the end of their story in this book, but Troll and Sedan, is that her name? Sorry, I'm crap on names. Seeing those two get together finally, and she kind of professes her love to him, and that was pretty special. But what's really impressive is the little things, like something that made me emotional was the death of Beak, a nothing little character. And maybe it hit harder because he was this, although he was very powerful, he was this very innocent character, and basically sacrifices himself for his friends. And his friends don't see him as friends. They see him as this weird little wizard guy. That really hit me, and I thought it was so well done. And then I think it was Hood was the elder god waiting for him as he died. I mean, that was special. I mean, such a poignant scene, and a character that really was not super important, in the big scheme of things. But really, really great there. I loved the stuff with Troll and Onrak. I loved all of that. The banter between Quick Ben and Hedge has been special in this book. It's kind of taken the place of like my favorite bantering characters. Probably still remain Teho and Bug in Midnight Tides, although they're in this book, but in that book in particular. But I really love the banter and how they're just like typical guys, just mean to each other. And I really enjoyed that. And then they both just step up and they take down two Tisty Andy. I mean, Hedge throws a sapper down one of its throat and it explodes. I mean, that was pretty epic right there. Just incredible. I loved how all of that scene played out. I don't know if I'm satisfied with the end of the Fear storyline. It almost seems like everything he did was a waste. So I don't know how I like that. And then I don't understand how the Warrens and the Azath houses work, but it is cool that was a way that so many of these characters could come together in these convergences here at the end. I am curious to see what happens with Rudd Alale going forward, because there's definitely some potential there. But like I'm talking like it's done. I still have another chapter, or 100 pages, what's going to go on with Karsa, what's going to go on with Ikariam. But I felt like the end of that previous section where I finished off reading last night was kind of an ending for at least some of those storylines. At least I think they're probably tapped out here. But yeah, and like the Red Mask thing, just that was surprising how his Kachane Shamal just turned on him and killed him. I didn't think that that would be the way that that character would end. And I thought beginning of the book they were building him up to be this big hero, and it just turns out that he was kind of a failure there. So, oh, and another scene that was really good was how Fiddler kind of welcomed the Eater when Beak was saving all of them, and kind of, they were done with the war, he was done with the war, and they just let them go. That was a nice scene in there. I mean, there's just a lot that's really happened in this last, probably, I'm around page 810. It started warming up around page 500, but like the last 200 pages, there's been just so much greatness in this story. So I'm back to feeling, more positive and negative, although I still stand by that the beginning of this book was needlessly slow and needlessly disjunct, needlessly meandering, but now I'm meandering. I will likely, I hope to finish it tonight. It's 100 pages, which is probably about 2 to 2.5 hours of reading. I will likely finish tonight. I didn't sleep much last night, so unless I'm really tired tonight, I should be able to finish it, and then just kind of last update with my overall thoughts. But I'm glad it turned around, because I was feeling negative for a long time with this book, but now I feel a lot better about it. Hey, sorry for the weird lighting in this last clip, but I am done with Reaper's Gale. It's actually Saturday. I finished it Monday night, but I had a really long work week with some late things Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evening, and then last night I was going to shoot, and I was just too tired to turn on the camera and just even talk about this book. So as I kind of alluded to in my next to last, I guess, update, where it was the penultimate chapter, that kind of continued to the end. The ending was great. I really felt the last third of this book redeemed for me the things I didn't like about the first 2/3. And in general, I feel very positive about this book. It's still my least favorite of the 7, but it's still a solid read, and I can say that I like it, and maybe even really liked it as a whole. I think the last chapter was almost, if not just as good as the previous chapter. So quite a few things happened. So first of all, Emperor Teho, we'll see how that goes. I kind of love that. I loved that. I honestly thought he was going to die, especially when Mayo came back, and it seemed to him that he couldn't help him. So thinking that, I guess we were just misdirected a little bit, that Teho wasn't going to come out of this. But not only does he live and is reunited with Bug / Mayo, and now he's the Emperor. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with that. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire series, especially the dynamic with him and Bug. I guess they're kind of together, those two. So that was an interesting development. The stuff with Janoth was hard. So hard. And we saw that Teho or Bug, one of them said, she has some healing to do, and hopefully they're able to help her in that regard. But man, the parts with her, that's one reason why when someone says this is a grimdark series, absolutely this is a grimdark series when scenes like that happen. That was rough. Let's see what else. So the way that Karsa killed Rulad really surprised me, and it just shows, there's so much more depth beneath the surface of Karsa. Another one of my favorite characters. I think he's just so intriguing. I love how nonchalant about everything he is. He's just supremely confident in himself, and there was no doubt for him that he would kill Rulad, and there were no fears, and then he just kills Rulad. I loved how he was just kind of playing defense for a while, just kind of almost toying with him, until he got Rulad to do what he had to do, was basically bury his sword so that he couldn't get it, and then chopped his arm off. But that was great. And then the scene kind of afterwards with him and the Cripple God was great, where Cripple God offers him, and he's just like, I don't follow anybody. Loved it. And then who did he slap and say, don't do that? It's just Erikson can just have those subtle little bits of humor in there that I just love. So I love the way that storyline ended. And then the Malazan coming in as not conquerors, but kind of liberators. I liked how that kind of pivoted that storyline as well. I mean, really, if you think about it in the grand scheme of at least that continent, I mean, this was a huge book, and it didn't seem like that because there was such just a slow pace at the very beginning of it. The troll death got me. Number one, it shocked me, and then number two, I realized I was more connected to that character than I realized until he was killed. And it's such a sad ending because he had just like accomplished so much. He made it home. He found his love, and it was a requited love, and it seemed like this character who had gone through so much had finally maybe earned some peace, and then he gets stabbed in the back. I mean, that one hurt. That may be like top 2 most impactful deaths in this series. And it had a lot of parallels to kind of the way that the other one would be Whiskey Jack in Memories of Ice. Kind of some parallels there between the two characters. But yeah, that one kind of hurt. I liked how Fear's character arc ended. I thought that was good. I don't know if I talked about that before or which chapter exactly that was in. I think it was in this last chapter. Again, I'm shooting this a few days later, so the ending kind of, everything happened is there, but not like exactly when it happened. So all of that was great. It's interesting to see if anything on this continent we'll see going forward, or if we're just going to be back in kind of Darujistan and Seven Cities again. Or, I'm not Darujistan, Genebacus is the continent. So I just wonder if we'll be there for the rest of the final 3 books or not. So that's going to be interesting to just find out where that's going to go. But as my big summation is I still feel the first 2/3 of this was way too slow, and I don't feel a lot of the characters that we were meeting had the big payoff, like Red Mask. I mean, his end it was kind of a fizzle of a character arc, and it just seems like we spent so much time and investment, and it didn't really pay off, in my opinion. And I feel that with many of the secondary characters as well. A lot of these characters didn't survive the book, and that was fine. But I do feel that the first 2/3 of this has been probably the low point of the series for me. But it was redeemed by the last, 350 pages of this book were stellar. Typical Erikson. He knows how to finish a book. I mean, all 7 books, he knows how to stick the landing. So that's exciting, because if he knows how to stick the landing in each installment, he's probably going to stick the landing in the series. But anyway, that's Reaper's Gale. I will be reading Toll the Hounds. It's going to be a while. As you know, those of you that watch these vlogs, I like to read these books when I have more time to invest into them, so it's not spread out over several weeks. And my next time off for extended time is spring break, but I'm traveling abroad, so that's not a good time to read Toll the Hounds. It's not going to be till summer. I have it penciled in as my first book in June, so stay tuned. A little bit of a break between Reaper's Gale and Toll the Hounds, but I've had some longer breaks in this series, and it hasn't lessened my enjoyment of it. I'm still invested, still excited to hopefully get towards the end. The only thing that I do know is I'm going to structure it, hopefully, fingers crossed. The way I'm picturing kind of the end of this series is that I'll do Toll the Hounds in June. My week off for Thanksgiving will be Dust of Dreams, and then end of December I'll read the Crippled God. So it may end up being Crippled God's my last book of the year, or maybe the first book of next year, depending how long it takes. But I was told Dust of Dreams and Crippled God you should read kind of close together, so that's kind of be a November, December, or November, December into January type of read for me. But anyway, if you watch these vlogs, I mean, obviously you're a big fan of the series, and I appreciate your time. If you want to talk about these books, let's talk below. I don't think you need to label spoilers, because who would be watching book 7 reading vlog if they haven't read Reaper's Gale. Anyway, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter, Goodreads, and the Fireside Discord. I'd love to interact with you there. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.